It's June, everybody, the beginning of June. It's been a few weeks since the end of the Premier League, but this is our roundup, our review and our reaction on how well we did with our predictions when we made our fateful predictions way back in August last year. As always, we're using two scoring systems for our Premier League predictions. First, there's the position difference model. The aim here is to get the lowest score possible. You get 1 point for every place your prediction is off. So if you predicted Crystal Palace to finish 16th, they actually finished 12th, that's 4 points. Predict Liverpool to finish first, and they did, that's 0 points. Second, we got the BBL model. This one rewards accuracy. 5 points if you get a team's position exactly right, 3 points if you're 1 place out, and 1 point if you're 2 places out, with 0 points if you're more than 2 positions off. Two different systems, one rewards precision and the other measures how far off we were.
So starting off with my bottom ones, I had 1 out of 3 this season. I've had 1 excellent prediction and 2 absolute complete stinkers, including one of the worst on the channel, that in channel history in Premier League really as well. So Southampton predicts finish bottom, they finished bottom. I actually said that they'd be challenging for Derby's record as well, mainly because of Russell Martin. That happened. He was sacked, of course, thank God, but too late. They brought in Ivan Juric. He was absolutely hopeless as well. And yeah, 12 points, absolutely pathetic. 19th, I had Nottingham Forest, 12 places out. They ended up qualifying for Europe. That is horrible of a prediction. Main reason for this, I haven't liked the trajectory of Nuno Santo, especially after he got sacked from Tottenham, and their squad just gave me a bit of a worry. They have some class players in there, but I was like, can they really push and challenge and gel? And boy, did they gel. That attack was absolutely sublime all season. Midfield, great as well. Elliot Anderson, very good signing as well from Newcastle. Great defensive line, and yeah, fantastic season for them. And they could have even qualified for Champions League, which they were most of the season. Crazy. Then in 18th, another stupid prediction. Brentford. Main reason for this, pretty much Ivan Toney, but at the end of the day, when you've got Mbuemo, you've got Wissa, you've got Sade, all having seasons of their lives, yeah, they're going to finish up there, aren't they? So, yeah, 1 right, 2 dreadfully wrong.
For me, relegation places wasn't too bad. Spot on with Southampton. Southampton, you say Nathan, absolutely terrible. 86 goals conceded. Shocking. In the entirety of the campaign. Yeah, they deserve to go down with that, and won only 3 matches overall. So for that, I had 5 points. You had 5 points as well. Next, in 19th position, I had Leicester City. Leicester, of course, finishing in 18th. And during the season, they failed to score in 9 home league matches. And at one point, they lost 15 of 16 matches, both home and away. And that was between the 14th of December and the 7th of April. Absolute disaster, and a massive reason why they were relegated. For my prediction, just a 1 place out, so in our scoring system I get 3 points. And then a bit of a disaster, same as you, Nathan. I predicted Brentford to finish in 18th position, 8 places out, as you've already mentioned. Sade, Wissa banging in the goals, Mbuemo absolutely phenomenal. Said lost Ivan Toney. There's question marks now about Thomas Frank. Looks like he could be going to Spurs. So will they find it difficult next season? And Mbuemo leaving, going to Man United. So they're going to be weaker unless they play their sort of moneyball strategy. So for Brentford, don't get any points on our system. And in the content creators system, I get 8 points. Next, we're going to go from 17th position all the way up to 11th. In 17th, I had Nottingham Forest, like yourself, Nathan. Yep. I thought they would struggle big time this season. How wrong I was. I was 10 positions out there, 0 points in our scoring system. They did absolutely phenomenal. They managed to get into the Conference League. They did have a chance of getting into the Champions League, but they fell away really at the death in the last, 8 to 10 games. Things really started to catch up with them, and but overall an excellent season, you've got to say, for Forest, but not from my point of view in the predictions. Then I had Ipswich down. I thought Ipswich would have been the team to survive for the ones who came up the previous season, but like Southampton, absolutely terrible defensively, outclassed in a lot of their games. They're losing Delap now to Chelsea.
I think they made profit on him though, which is a good thing, really.
Yeah, I think it could rise up to 30 million in the end. I think the initial fee is 20 million. Survival in the end, it was a tall order, and I had them 3 positions out, so no points there, but 3 points or 3 positions isn't too bad. Then I had Wolves, just the 1 position out there for me, so a very good prediction, 3 points. Cunha, I think he scored something like 12 goals in the league. I think he had a couple of bangs as well in that time, banging them in the back of the net, but that's earned him a move now to Manchester United, who finished just the 1 position above them. Crazy. And Aït-Nouri, he's off to the other Man City club in a massive fee. So they're going to be weaker next season, but will they reinvest that money? And I'm going to be looking closely at Wolves over the close season to see who they recruit for my prediction next term. Then I had Fulham in 14th position, 3 places out there. Okay, half decent prediction, but overall Fulham did really well to finish in 11th position. They just didn't have the quality really in the end to push into the top 10, but going forward they look really good. In 13th position I had Everton, spot on, bang on the money with that one. Defensively solid throughout the season, like Tarkowski and Braithwaite, their linchpins in the defence. They just started off a bit of disaster, and they looked in real trouble in those early months, but they turned it around, and Beto found some form up front as well, knocking them in the back of the net, and in the end they were fairly comfortable to finish in 13th position. In 12th I had Brighton, 4 positions out there, Brighton finishing in 8th position. I had them in 12th, so overall not a bad prediction. I think the likes of Mitoma, Welbeck and João Pedro, I think they had 10 goals each. So decent in front of goal without having a 20-goal striker, but they spread it around their team, and they caused issues for all sorts of teams throughout the division. Then I had Bournemouth in 11th position, just the 2 positions out. Their sort of form went up and down. Overall, they found some real good players. Kluivert was a revelation in midfield. I think he picked up an injury 2/3 of the way through the season, but overall Bournemouth fans have got to be really pleased with where they finished in the league. So that's my 17th to 11th. Nathan, who finished 17th for you?
Right, so I actually had the Foxes Leicester City. I thought they just had enough to stay up, especially with the Steve Cooper appointment giving me a bit of confidence, but they were just absolutely pathetic.
Even Jamie Vardy could save them, couldn't he?
I know, and of course he's gone at the end of the season. Interesting to see where he goes, but they just didn't give Cooper enough time. Van Nistelrooy came in, which I thought would do a bit better, but even then he was even worse, so quite frankly they deserved to go down. Wolves 16th, perfect prediction there. Gary O'Neill's gone, bringing in Vitor Pereira. He's really steadied the ship and done a really good job there. It's going to be interesting to see what he does next season with that, like Cunha, Aït-Nouri. Wolves having their assets stripped, really, aren't they? But moving on, 15th place, Ipswich, way out with this one. Reason being for this, I really like the depth in that Ipswich squad as well, and some really underrated players, especially Championship pushing into Premier League, and I'm pretty sure all the teams who have always been double promoted from League One, so your Norwiches, your Southamptons, they've never been relegated when they've gone straight up. So I thought it'd be the same with Ipswich with how well they played, but yeah, just that defence was so leaky, wasn't it? So back down in the Championship next season. Fulham, 3 positions out. I was a little bit off with them. They were excellent all season, weren't they? Very consistent on both ends of the pitch. Marco Silva, fantastic manager for them. They're going to have another good season. Everton, another prediction bang on the money. That's 3 perfect scores for me now. Really impressed with that. Reason I put Everton in 13th was because of Sean Dyche, and I like what he was doing. But of course, they got rid of Mashiri. They got these new owners in. They did end up sacking him, which I thought was a hipster move at the time. But who did they bring in? David Moyes.
Yeah, it turned out for the best.
Phenomenal, didn't it? So, yeah, Everton deserves to finish 13th, and they'll have a good one next year. 12th position, stupid prediction. This turned out to be Chelsea in 12th. 8 places out, they went in Champions League. Reason for this, Maresca rushing out of Leicester. One can see why in hindsight now, and especially with the chaos of the last couple of seasons under Todd Bowley, I thought they were going to have a stinker, but they actually gelled and play well. Cole Palmer was hot and cold at times, and yeah, decent season for Chelsea, to be honest. Moving on, Brighton 11th. He finished 8th, knocking on the door of Europe again. With this one, they were just a bit too inconsistent at times and dropping points in places that they shouldn't have. Hutzler, solid, good season, hence why I did put them in 11th, but 8th is very good, actually. And then finally, for that section, 10th place, I had Bournemouth, one position out. They actually ended up finishing in 9th. They actually would have finished higher if they didn't have that really bad patch at the start of the season. Fair play for sticking under Iraola as well.
Their assets are being picked off as well, too.
Their assets are being picked bizarrely by Real Madrid, which, imagine saying that 15 years ago, that Real Madrid would be buying loads of players and scouting around Bournemouth. Absolutely ridiculous. Next up, moving from 9th to 5th, so we're going to touch on the European spot and 5th place, which is now the Champions League because they won the coefficient. So 9th place, I had Crystal Palace. They actually finished in their traditional 12th. Actually, the best season in Palace history, that was. What was it? Highest points total. They won the FA Cup. They qualified for Europe. They actually probably would have finished in 9th if they didn't have such a disaster start to the season, but they grew into it really well. So, yeah, fair play to Palace for that season. 8th place, West Ham, 6 positions out. Lopetegui thought he was going to do well, building on from what Moyes built. Absolutely shattered the foundations and got sacked, and Graham Potter couldn't do much either, but he's a manager who needs time, isn't he? So yeah, disaster for West Ham. 7th place, another stinker in Manchester United. I know their squad has regressed and is so weak in certain areas, but I do love Ten Hag as a manager. Ultimately, lost the dressing room and got sacked. Bringing in Anarim, who has a distinct style of play with a 5 at the back, just hasn't worked at all so far.
Apart from in Europe, you could say.
Well, they did lose the Europa League final, and have got new European football next season, so could be the same again for Man United next season. Hopefully relegation, but moving swiftly onwards, Newcastle I had in 6th. They actually finished in 5th. Amazing season yet again. Eddie Howe guiding them back into the Champions League. Dan Burn heading it in for a Carabao Cup, first major trophy in 70 years. Life is good to be a Newcastle fan at the moment. And then moving on to 5th, stupid prediction in Liverpool, finishing 5th. They actually ended up winning the league, didn't they? Honestly, especially moving away from Jurgen Klopp, normally a transition period there, especially for someone who's been there so long. But yeah, Slot, just perfect the way he set that team up, and they practically walked the league, didn't they?
So looking at my 10th to 5th position, in 10th position I had Crystal Palace, just the 2 positions out. Phenomenal season for them, getting their first piece of silverware in their history. And I think you said, Nathan, they had their best ever points haul in the Premier League
in
era.
General, the best ever season.
Yeah,
really.
53 points for them. Okay, they finished in 12th position, but points-wise, excellent. And Mateta, I think he bagged in some 12 goals, didn't he? And they'll be in the Europa League next season. In 9th position, I had West Ham. 5 positions out. They rallied a little bit at the end of the season. Jarrod Bowen banging in the goals for the Hammers, but managerial wise, getting rid of Lopetegui, as you said, and it hasn't really worked out with Potter at the moment. We'll see how he does in the close season, whether he can rebuild this West Ham team, whether he'll get new recruits in, remains to be seen for next season. But finishing in 14th position, okay, wasn't too bad in the end, could have been a lot worse, but yeah, prediction wise, not great for myself. 5 positions out. Then I had the disaster that was Spurs. Postecoglou, even though he delivered silverware for the first time in ages, isn't it? It was a disaster in the league. A lot of Spurs fans saying that they'd rather actually be higher in the league. I don't know why. Well, obviously you know why.
Well, if you want to prioritise a league position over silverware, go play badminton. Absolute
ridiculous. I think it depends who they bring in now, isn't it? But you've got to be looking at climbing that league next year, especially with the wealth of talent, especially going forward, their forward line and their midfield. They should be a lot higher, but defensively they need to restructure that defence, I'm afraid, even though they have got some decent centre halves. In 7th position, another disaster for myself. 8 positions out there for Manchester United. They had their worst season in the Premier League themselves.
Cough since 1992.
Scoring just 50 goals in the process. lost in the Europa League final as well. Defensively, shambolic. Struggled with a lot of injuries, it has to be said, but it's Manchester United, supposedly one of the big clubs in world football, to finish in 15th position. Absolutely shocking by them. And another shocker in my predictions, finishing for myself, I had them in 7th position. Then I had Newcastle in 6th position, just the one position out, just missing out on European glory, but they did bring in the silverware in the guise of the Carabao Cup. So did really well there. I love their centre of midfield with the likes of Tonali and Guimaraes. Whether they can keep hold of Guimaraes in the close season, we'll just have to see. But superb finishing 5th. Then I had Aston Villa in 5th position, just the one position out there from my prediction. Sort of fell away, didn't they, about 2/3 of the way through the season.
What I tend to find as well is Villa always seem to struggle in their game after the Champions League. Beforehand, they get a few wins together. They did extremely well in the Champions League as well, especially under the new format. But yeah, it was just those games after in the second half of the season that dropped them out of those places.
I think Man City used to do that a few seasons ago. So yes, that's my 11th to 5th. And then we move on to the top 4. And I've got to say, my top 4, even though they were in a slightly different order, I thought I did well predictions-wise. In 4th position, I had Chelsea, bang on the money, totally different from what you predicted, Nathan. I know that they've had a bit of a disaster the previous couple of seasons, but the way they recruited, Cole Palmer finished the previous season excellently, and he had a phenomenal first half of the season before he really dipped in form, and his dip in form coincided with a little bit of Chelsea's dip in form. Palmer, though, did finish the season with 15 goals and something like around about 8 assists. They have got a young squad, so they'll get better next season, and I'm sure they're going to recruit, because I was looking at their financial fair play and all those rules, and I think they're going to be okay. I think they can recruit again,
which is crazy,
in the summer, which, yeah, as you say, absolutely crazy. In 3rd position, I had Liverpool. Of course, they finished as champions. Just the 2 positions out. Arne Slot doing amazing in his first season in charge, taking over from Jurgen Klopp, and you can't fault him. Although I do question it a little bit, the points total, 84 points. Normally, teams who have won the league recently have got more than that.
But bearing in mind, 84 points and winning the margin that they did is just crazy.
From Arsenal, yes. Salah, phenomenal yet again. 29 goals in the ridiculous league, and I think he was the lead assister in the division as well. Defensively, they were decent as well, conceding just the 41 goals, and that front line, it's scary. And with Wirtz, looks like he's coming in from BLA's.
They've got an upgrade as well from Trent Alexander-Arnold, which is superb to see.
Yeah, if you say so, Nathan. I'm not sure Liverpool fans will agree. Yeah, Frimpong's going to be a revelation in the Premier League as well next season, just 2 positions out. Then I had Manchester City, just the 1 position out. Rodri, a massive loss for him early in the season when we picked up that nasty injury. Haaland started like a house on fire, but he sort of dropped off, had a big injury as well, and he was a massive loss, finishing 3rd, so Champions League action next season. And I think Doku, seeing him in international duty, electrifying pace. I think he may take Man City to new heights next season. And in 1st position, I had Arsenal, 1 position out. With Arsenal, it was all about the draws. They had the most number of drawn matches last season in the league, Arsenal. 14 draws. If they could have converted like half of those to wins, then they would have been in a real chance of a shout of the league title. So my top 4, not too bad. Your top 4, Nathan?
Yeah, so 4th position, I had Spurs. Main reason for this, I love Ange Postecoglou as a manager. At the end of the day, defence, injuries everywhere, just inconsistent all season. They were, in certain games they were playing well, but they were just bottling leads. They were just letting things slip. They were coming off second best. They did win, of course, the Europa League, which they did prioritise, which was a good thing. I like that Ange did that. And ultimately, I'll get on to Arsenal, but Spurs, they've had a better season than Arsenal in my eyes. Anyway, moving on. Third position, I had Aston Villa. Champions League football, they've added loads of depth into that squad as well. We actually went to Villa Park this season, and considering that they completely rotated their team, and you have the likes of Asensio, Rashford, Leon Bailey, it's just absolutely ridiculous, the squad they've got, but just too inconsistent ultimately, and they're in the Europa League next year. But, spoiler alert, I do think they're going to win the Europa League next season, so more European silverware for Villa. In second place, I had Manchester City. They actually ended up finishing in third. Imagine saying that at the start of the season. But lost Rodri to that ACL injury. That's season ending for them. Haaland with injuries and inconsistencies couldn't score.
Yeah, Mamouche came in January.
Yeah.
He did well, but he kind of had a little bit of a drop-off in form.
He was up and down.
But he did score some phenomenal goals.
Yeah, Man City's January recruitment was fantastic. Mamouche, Nico Gonzalez, etc. They actually did really well there, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do next year, especially with the likes of De Bruyne leaving as well, which going to Napoli, which is going to be interesting. And top of the league, I thought it was going to be Arsenal, literally, because surely with the likes of Liverpool changing manager, Spurs being Spurs, Man City having the start of their transition, I thought Arsenal had to do it because they had the components, but just, absolutely shocking, inconsistent, another trophyless season, and they've had a worse season than Spurs. Like, how do you even manage that and also finish so far away from Liverpool, considering how low of a points total they finished on? That's absolutely embarrassing. But anyway, so those are the predictions. Let's look at the scores on the doors. So we do it in our two models. So we got our model, then we got the YouTube invented by Spencer FC model. So in our model, I actually had 30 points, which is 5 less from last season, annoyingly. But it's the YouTuber model that I actually had an absolute stinker on. Last season, I had 39 points, which I believe was one of the best predictions on the internet. That I had comparing with other people, but it was so predictable last year, wasn't it? This season I've had 80 points, which is one of my worst prediction seasons, which isn't great. So massive change away.
And for myself, on the YouTube model, I came away with 62 points, which was 6 points worse than last season, where I finished on 56 points. But on our model, I was actually better off. Last season I had just 29 points,
and I think stinkers that cost you.
Both of us, Manchester United, Spurs,
Nottingham Forest, Brentford,
and you could say Brentford, and
Chelsea.
You had Chelsea as well. So overall, okay, not great. We're gonna have to improve again next year.
It was a very hard season to predict, unlike last year where it was really consistent.
It is,
but
Manchester United, Spurs, diabolical.
Just hilarious.
But also remember, we ran the Super Brew Predictions League as well, and I'm really happy to say that top of the leaderboard with a magnificent score of 364 points was Capped Zero, beating his nearest rival, or her nearest rival, Blue Orbit, who finished on 358.5 points. For us, Nathan, I finished in 16th position on 332 points, and I know, like myself, you missed a few weeks, didn't you?
54.
You finished in 54th position on 284 points, and in total there were 99 people who were playing overall, so not so bad. Also ran Fantasy Football League, where I finished on 2,519. I think you gave it yourself.
Yeah, I did.
I came second in the Bluebird Legend League, and I was in the top 100,000 in the world. I think that's my best ever finished in the Premier League fantasy competition. So Nathan,
he was one of the best in Wales and all.
Well, you could say. But Nathan, thank you for joining me once again throughout the season. Look forward to again next season. Any final words?
Get a manager, Cardiff City.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us. Have a great summer, and we'll see you all real soon.